Well, outdated wills happen more than they should, right? Well, what happens if you find out that you're actually the executor of a will for an aunt that lives a long ways away? Well, got a question today that came in that we're going to address with Nick and talk about the options you have moving forward. Welcome in. This is Complete Estate Planning. Glad to have you on the show once more. I'm Ben George with Nick Rosenbauer, attorney at the Rosenbauer law office there in the greater Cincinnati, Ohio area. Find them online, cincinnatiestateplan.com. So, Nick, outdated wills are going to happen, and there's going to be some surprises in the estate planning process as we talk about here on the show. So here's one that we got that came in specifically from a viewer of YouTube that has a question for you. So I just found out that my out-of-town aunt named me an executor of her will. It was done a long time ago when her kids were still young. Her family, or her children now, are full-grown adults, and I don't love the idea of handling a probate case from halfway across the country. Can I just let her children deal with it? All right. What do you think?
Great question. So first off, and the answer I give will apply regardless of the situation of, your relative having adult kids who can now handle it, and if it's out of date. So first off, when you are named as, and this applies actually to any job, if you're named as the executor of a will, trustee of a trust, power of attorney, finance, medical, guardian of kids, those are nominations. So the way I refer to that is it is not a lifetime prison sentence. It is a job offer of employment at will. You are allowed to refuse the job. And that applies to any job. I know it's broader than the question here from the listener, but you are not forced to accept the job. So the first thing is, and I tell all of my executors when we sit down, to settle an estate after someone passes away, I kind of say the should you choose to accept this mission kind of joke is usually what I give. But no, you are not required to do so. And it wouldn't matter if the kids were still little. No one can force you to do it. Now, I will say this. When people tell me, I don't want to do this, I don't feel like doing this, or maybe they can't do this. Maybe they have other issues they're dealing with. They're out of town. They're too busy. They travel for work, or maybe like they're taking care of a sick parent or a sick child, or maybe they're sick and say, I'm not able to do it. The next question they always have for me is, if I say no, who gets stuck with it? So I think and again, it's not a definitive thing to know, but I think it's good to know who's behind you on the list. So if Ben named me, as his executor or his trustee, and I say, I don't really feel like doing this, I would want to know who the backup is and maybe find out, hey, is that person still alive? Are they capable? Then I would feel better not taking the job because I know, hey, not me, but Ben's got another person here who's an adult, who's local, who's closer than I am, and would be willing to take the job. So I'm still leaving things in good hands. Now, again, legally, even if you're not left in good hands, it doesn't have to be your problem. But let's be practical about it, Ben. That plays into it. And it sounds like it did for the listener here because they're saying that, the kids are able to handle the job. So you don't have to take the job if you don't want to. You can just resign. If you've already started the job, you can quit or just refuse to take the job if you haven't, officially been sworn in yet. So knowing who the backup is helpful. If there is no backup, or if the backup is gone, then it gets a little bit different. You have to worry about what type of job it is and what the process is for getting the next person put down and nominated. So, with a will and a probate estate, when someone passes away, normally someone else will have to apply for the job to serve as the executor and get court approval. Now, if it is a responsible adult child of the person who passed away, it's usually not a big deal. But I have had times in the past, Ben, where people say, I don't really want to do this, but there's no one behind me, or the person behind me has passed away or is in a worse situation than I am. And sometimes they will begrudgingly say, all right, I'll just keep the job. I'll take it. But it sounds like in this instance, Ben, the listeners totally, and it would not be harsh or unreasonable for them to step down and say, I'm not handling it. I'll let you handle it. Now, it's probably a good idea to chat with the kids and make sure they're up for it, so you don't feel like you're abandoning them. But you can definitely, step down or refuse the job. But just be careful, because if someone else that you don't like is named behind you, you can't skip them necessarily. So you want to make sure you're last in line so the kids can step in, or whoever is behind you is either also willing to step down or you're okay with them doing the job.
Okay. Yeah, great information. I was not aware of how that would proceed, and obviously this listener viewer is in the same position. So good information there, Nick. And I guess it's also a good reminder that, hey, make sure your will is updated so that you have all these things in place and that you communicated with the person that you've named as your executor, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And again, this brings up a few different things. Updating is really important, because I'll bet if in this situation, if the listener's aunt had sat down with her estate planning attorney, and the estate planning attorney said, here's who we picked to be executor last time, how do we still feel about that? The aunt may have said, well, I don't need to impose on extended family. I can just let the kids handle it. And then it would have been fixed that way. That's probably what will happen. I get the vibe that, especially if this was done before the kids were old enough, the wishes probably have changed now. Like, Ben, for you and me, we can't name our kids, to be in charge of everything right now because they're not old enough. But hopefully when we're a little older and our kids are in their 20s or what have you, if we do a moderate to good job of being parents, hopefully our kids are reasonably responsible. And then we're probably making updates and saying, now that the kids are old enough, I'll just let them handle everything. So that's what I hope the natural progression of it is. Or even if the kids can't handle it, we're looking at it and saying, hey, the people we named before are getting up there in years, or maybe they're not even alive anymore. It is still our responsibility to pick new people. So again, just something to keep an eye on. One of the reasons we preach checkups and updates, even if people don't realize and don't think we need to make tweaks every day. This is something that you need to at least keep an eye on for situations just like this.
All right, very good. If you have questions, again, reach out to Nick at the Rosenbauer Law Office. You can find him online, CincinnatiEstatePlan.com. Again, all the contact info is in the show description as well, so check it out there if you don't want to jot it down. But we appreciate you watching. Thanks for being a part of the show. Back again soon, so subscribe, and we'll talk to you later. Nick, take care.
All right, absolutely. Thanks, Ben.
Are you feeling overwhelmed by estate planning? The process can seem complex, but it doesn't have to be. The Rosenbauer Law Office is dedicated to helping you protect what matters most: your family, your assets, and your peace of mind. Nick and the team will guide you through every step of the process, making sure you feel confident and informed along the way. Take the first step toward peace of mind today. Schedule an introductory call by clicking the link in the description of today's show.
This show is for informational purposes only and does not provide any legal advice. Information on this show may not constitute the most up-to-date legal information. Please do not act or refrain from acting based solely on anything you hear on this show. This show does not form any attorney-client relationship with the Rosenbauer Law Office, LLC. Please seek the counsel of a qualified attorney before addressing your own estate planning needs.